On the eve of Thanksgiving 1971, a man using the name Dan Cooper hijacked Northwest Orient Flight 305. After receiving a ransom and 4 parachutes, he ordered the crew to fly toward Mexico, then stepped off the rear stairs and into a freezing storm. He took $200,000 in cash with him. Despite an intensive manhunt, neither the hijacker nor the money left any trace in the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. 9 years later, a young boy digging a fire pit on the banks of the Columbia River uncovered 3 bundles of deteriorating $20 bills. They were partially buried in the sand, held together by original rubber bands. The FBI confirmed the serial numbers matched the Cooper ransom. This was the first and only portion of the money ever recovered in the history of the case. However, the find created a geographic contradiction. The money was discovered 20 miles away from the flight path, located in the opposite direction of the night's prevailing winds. Geological analysis of the riverbank added a new layer of difficulty. The FBI determined the stacks of cash were resting in a zone that had been formed by river dredging in 1974. This diagram shows the timeline conflict. If the money was resting on top of sand pumped from the river bottom in 1974, it couldn't have arrived during the jump in 1971. It would have been buried underneath 3 years of sediment. Based on this placement, the FBI concluded that the hijacker must have survived. They theorized he returned years after the jump to physically bury the ransom money on the new shoreline. This conclusion turned a simple crime into an enduring legend. It suggested a mastermind had managed to beat the elements and return to the scene to leave a calling card. Recently, paleontologist Tom Kay re-examined the 1970s dredge data. His team used modern GPS mapping and satellite imagery to verify the exact coordinates of the industrial work performed decades ago. Because of the scale of these industrial dredging operations, small errors in mapping on the ground can lead to large misunderstandings of the landscape years later. The team found that the 1974 dredging operation actually stopped 150 feet short of the location where the boy found the money. By plotting the original coordinates onto a modern map, the team identified a gap. The sand where the money was found had never been touched by the dredge. It was a natural part of the original riverbank. This corrected the timeline. The bills arrived at the site naturally, traveling through the water within months of the 1971 jump. If the money traveled naturally, it faced a physical obstacle. The find site was upstream from the mouth of the Lewis River, where the money would have first entered the water system. To reach the sandbar, the money had to travel miles against the Columbia's current. The bag likely snagged on a passing cargo ship's propeller. The spinning blades shredded the heavy canvas, allowing a few bundles to break loose and drift onto the beach. The ransom reached that specific sandbar because it was mechanically dragged there by a ship, not because someone returned to bury it. Tracing this path back from the Columbia leads up the Lewis River, directly to the point where Flight 305 was flying at 8:10 p.m. Cooper jumped into a dark, freezing storm with 0 visibility. He fell at over 100 miles per hour toward a landscape he couldn't see. He was encumbered by 23 pounds of extra weight from the cache and was using an NB-8 parachute. This specific military model provides no steering capability. The jumper simply goes wherever the wind and gravity take them. Unable to see or steer, the hijacker was funneled by the wind directly into the 300-foot-wide Lewis River. This raises the ultimate question: could any person survive a blind landing in freezing, fast-moving water? The evidence is in the bundles themselves. 3 loose stacks of $20 bills cannot float 20 miles through a river system independently and somehow land in the exact same spot years later. They stayed together because the bank bag remained intact for the entire 20-mile journey from the initial splash until it was torn open by the ship. Eyewitnesses confirmed that Cooper tied the heavy ransom bag to his waist with 30 feet of parachute cord. Because the bag was secured to him, the man and the money traveled as a single unit. The same currents that carried the bag would have moved his body downstream. Within days, the flow of the Columbia would have reached the coast, depositing the remainder of the money and the hijacker into the ocean. The stacks of cash discovered in 1980 represent a rare remnant of a failed getaway. They are physical evidence of a fatal landing, marking the spot where the river briefly gave up a piece of the man who never made it out.